Tonight, Ukraine, Russia, and the world are marking 100 days of war, 100 days of horrors inflicted by Vladimir Putin's invasion with no clear victory in sight for either side. Let's go to our senior international correspondent, Ben Wiedemann. He's joining us live from Kyiv right now. Ben, give us the latest on what's happening on the ground and where this war seems to be heading next.
Well, the critical battle right now, Wolf, is in the eastern Donbass region, and particularly in the city of Severodonetsk, a place I spent a lot of time in back in April. That city has been pummeled for weeks and weeks and weeks by Russian artillery, and Ukrainian officials now concede that up to 80% of that city is now under Russian control. Now, there are still Ukrainian forces operating in small pockets in the city, perhaps just trying to cover a retreat by the Ukrainian forces. But certainly what we are seeing is that even in places like that, after this intense artillery bombardment, there is still intense Ukrainian resistance. Now, we understand that as many as 800 people, civilians, are still hiding out in a chemical plant, in the basements, or rather the bomb shelters there. In fact, we were in those bomb shelters back in April. Situation was dire back then. I can only imagine what it is now. Now, the Ukrainians, however, are saying that within the last 24 hours, however, the Russians have not made any major advances within that city itself. They do, however, warn that Russian forces are massing outside the city of Slovyansk, elsewhere in Donbass, preparing to try to retake that city. Despite these problems, President Volodymyr Zelensky did come out and say that he is confident that in the end, Ukraine will be victorious.
The leaders of parliamentary factions are here. The president's chief of staff is here. Prime Minister of Ukraine, Shmyhal, is here. Podolyak is here. The president is here. Our team is much bigger. The armed forces of Ukraine are here. Most importantly, our people, the people of our country, are here. We have been defending Ukraine for 100 days. Victory shall be ours. Glory to Ukraine.
And when you think back, Wolf, to how dire the situation was in Ukraine 90 days ago, when we understood that there were multiple plans by the Russians to actually assassinate President Zelensky, that he's now every day, every evening, coming out with these statements, it shows that certainly the situation has changed dramatically from what it was just a few weeks ago. Wolf.
Good point. Ben Wiedemann on the scene for us in Kyiv. Thank you very much. Let's get the big picture right now, where the war stands 100 days in. Brian Todd is joining us, along with CNN's military analyst, retired Major General James Spider-Marks. Brian, show us how Russian forces have gained more and more ground, apparently, during the course of this conflict.
Wolf, no better way to do that than with a map. General Marks, we're going to start by showing viewers, as we get 100 days into the war, what the map looked like on March 5th, General. This is the way it looked. The Russians were pinching in on Kyiv from at least 3 sides. They held some territory in the northeast. This is the way the map looks today. Now, General, how have the Russians changed their strategy? Where are they making their biggest gains right now?
Yeah, well, Brian, what's really happening is the Russians back in the early part of the war tried to invade with too few forces along too many avenues of approach. In other words, they tried to bite off more than they could chew. They determined that in very short order because they underestimated the Ukrainians and they overestimated their own abilities. As a result of that, they've put all of their forces down in the Donbass area, and they've now created, as the new map shows, this crescent that essentially runs from the eastern portion of Kharkiv all the way down to Kherson, which successfully creates, it has to be held, but it successfully creates this land bridge for Russia to Crimea.
Right, General. We're going to talk about the weaponry now. Over the course of 100 days in this war, it has evolved. First, the U.S. and NATO gave the Ukrainians Javelins and Stinger missiles. Then, Mi-17 helicopters and Switchblade drones. Now, recently, they've just sent howitzers, with the Ukrainians training on those, and what they call high-mobility artillery rocket systems, the HIMARS, which the Ukrainians want those HIMARS rockets to have a range of 200 miles, the U.S. giving them rockets with only a range of about 50 miles. Can these make a difference, General, and how can the Ukrainians use them?
Well, they can make a difference, and we've seen over the course of these 100 days the significant difference that this type of kit is providing the Ukrainians. What it really gives them is a step up capability to fight the Ukrainians, to fight against the Russians in depth. That's the way you set the operational tempo. That's the way you set the conditions for the tactical fight. And that's what these capabilities provide them. Now, bear in mind, President Zelensky, along with our own president, has indicated we don't want to fight into Russia. From a military guy's perspective, if you can get into that sanctuary, if you can go after the Russians where their logistics are, where they refuel, where they refit, where they take a break, you can get into the tempo that they now have to bring forward to the battle.
All
The
right.
Ukrainians can set that tempo.
General, key question here. 100 days in, let's project where it's going to look territorially 100 days from now. Can the Ukrainians recapture the 20% of their territory from the Russians at this point?
Well, it's unlikely that they're going to do that. Let's be frank. Crimea existed and the Donbass existed where Russian forces have been since 2014. Those, I think, are going to remain in place. The success that the Ukrainians can achieve right now will determine how much more of Ukraine they can reclaim. That's why we're at an inflection point. What happens over the next 2 to 3 months will determine what Ukraine looks like going forward for the next couple of years.
All right, General Marks, thank you very much. One point that we want to make, Wolf, is as we toss back to you, Russia, according to President Zelensky, has lost about 30,000 soldiers. That may or may not be an accurate mark from President Zelensky, but the president also says that he is losing 60 to 100 soldiers a day. Both General Marks and I believe he can't sustain those numbers for very much longer.
Yeah, those numbers are very, very significant. Thank you very much for that, Brian Todd and retired Major General James Spider Marks.